Welcome to Mobile Rolling. After the break, it'll be my pleasure to be talking to the South Australian identity in both harness racing and thoroughbreds, and it'll be a great pleasure to have next to me Adrian Hancock. Adrian, welcome to Mobile Rolling.
Thanks, Gary.
Pleasure to have on board. I suppose, as I normally say to all of them, people have on the show, start from the start. Most people would know you from harness racing and probably the last 20 years in the thoroughbred game as a consultant and an auctioneer. So tell us where you were born, where you went to school, as a youngster, and go from there.
Thanks, Gary. Yeah, well, long while ago now. Grew up at a little town called Andrews, or not even a town, or a railway siding.
That's in the mid-north?
Mid-north of South Australia, 20 miles north of Clare, basically, we used to say. Not miles in those days. Went to primary school at Spalding Primary, and then for some unknown reason I wanted to go to Irbrae, agricultural high school in Adelaide. So at the age of 12 and a half, I went down to Irbrae. In those days, or still, you had to board out privately with people in the local area, generally widows that took you on, or families that had a spare bedroom.
So what were you, your family, obviously they were farmers, were they sheep, wheat, or what was the story up there? What did they do?
Dad was a farmer, mixed farmer, wheat, oats, barley, sheep, cattle, and standardbreds.
So how many acres would have you had in those days?
Around 1,600.
1,600.
Yeah.
So this cold weather, you'd be used to it coming from Andrews or Spalding?
Love a bit of rain. Always love rain. I guess it's when you're in your farming hereditary, rain's always a godsend. My grandpa had the land before that, and he originally started at Butte. He moved across when he was married and got this land at Andrews and lived there, and Dad was born there, and Uncle Joey, his brother. And so then Robert and my brother and I, grew up on the farm, and as I say, I went to Irbrae as a 12-and-a-half-year-old, boarded privately, and so basically never came home.
So with Irbrae, you were there to basically go back onto the farm and run it. That's what you went to Irbrae for?
Yeah, I didn't have any real aspirations. I thought I'd be a farmer eventually. When I went to Irbrae, I loved the trots, the harness racing. I was mad keen on it. Our family had good success in it, so it was in my blood. And I just followed.
So you went to Irbrae and never went back home. Well, you went home, but never to work.
No, I finished up. Well, Robert was always going to be the farmer out of the two of us, and I always loved the breeding side of things, whether it was sheep or chooks or whatever, cattle, and especially harness racing. Absolutely loved it. Loved reading the stud book, just read it every night.
I can relate to that.
Listening to the races and looking up pedigrees, and that was my background.
So at what age did you leave Irbrae? How old were you then? 17?
I was 17, just 16 and a half, and I did 9 months of wool classing in between. I sort of completed 1 week short of completing a wool classing practical. I'd done all the theory, and I was up at a shed up north, and I had my name down to get a job in Coles Bloodstock Agency, or Dalgety Bloodstock in those days, in Curry Street. Dad pushed me there just to get a job in the horse business, and in those days there was pedigree rooms. They were done manually. The catalogues took 6 months to make in those days with research. So I had my name down, and I got a contact say, "Can you come for an interview?" So I remember driving down I was north of Yunta, somewhere up there, and so I drove down and went for an interview, and they said, it might have been that day or next day, "When can you start?" And I said, "I can start next week." So I did, and didn't get my wool classing certificate in the end. I was 1 week short, but it wouldn't have mattered. And I walked into the thoroughbred pedigree room.
So just on the pedigrees, did they only do thoroughbreds and standardbreds? Did they do anything else? Did they didn't sell cattle or?
That's all they did.
They
they might have done the odd Arab
nothing
sale
big,
or something like that, but no. Or the dairy sale. I remember Bob Robinson, Mr. Magic, he was known that. He had a dairy farm at Oakbank called Rivendell Stud, a great lot of Jersey cows. I remember going to, one of my first sales I did was a Jersey dispersal with David Cole.
So that was as an auctioneer? So that's where
No, just as a working in the office. I
and
started
like
auctioning at that stage.
So when did you start auctioneering? Obviously, did you do cattle and sheep, or you just started on the horses, or what was the story there?
No, I would obviously work as a clerk. They'd give you a job as a clerk, write down the buyer's name and help along, and occasionally you get a kick in the ankle from the auctioneer to throw in a bid.
Or pull your coat.
That's right. But then Chris Coles was probably a great mentor to me, David Coles' son. He was a very good auctioneer, and we used to have horse sales at the show, just selling hacks and dressage horses and ponies. And I don't know why Chris did it, but halfway through the auction, there's only 30 or 40 horses probably, and he said, right, I'm handing you over to Adrian to sell so-and-so. So all of a sudden, bang, there I am selling ponies and things, or trying to. And that's where it started. And then I think the following year, well, the show's in September, I think next year I sold my first trotting sale, which would have been around...
This is at the showgrounds in the corner?
Yeah, at the Waywood Showgrounds in around about
Goodwood Road,
1974, 5 probably, around then. I reckon I started doing it. And Peter Lacey was in charge of the trotting section at that stage, and by then I'd gravitated towards that department. It was only Peter and myself, and Peter was done a great job. And then he moved to Melbourne, I think. So then all of a sudden I became a one-man band at about the age of 19 or 20 of running the trotting department. And
so in those days, was that, they did private sales, and the yearling sale was always in excess of 100 plus horses?
We'd have 120 to 150 yearlings in a sale in those days, and a lot of good breeders, obviously. And so I used to do one-man show. I used to do the pedigrees and the whole lot right through to the auctioneering.
So at those days, I know, did with a lot of the people that had horses in South Australia, like Murdoch and Son down at Warooka, did they put horses through the sales in those days for you?
Absolutely.
What were some of the vendors that you would have remembered that you would have been there?
Oh, there was a lot of great, like the Murdochs.
E.E. Lang and Sons at Georgetown, that's when...
Ted Lang, Mrs. Murdoch, Purple Para was one of the first good mares I remember selling, beautiful Arkin filly she was. The Langs, Floyd Brooks, of course, was a great breeder. Boconic Park at Clare.
What about the All Churches? Did they sell
Bruce
any
All Church,
down at Saddleworth?
he stood Sheffield Globe.
Sheffield Globe, lovely.
Yeah, great stallion. There was a real nucleus of very good breeders, and they would sell their yearlings at Wavell every year.
And that was the days when a lot of, especially on the York Peninsula, there was a lot of, every farmer had a couple of mares, and there was a lot of stallions that, like Dean James and that blokes who just had Glenfern Hall and horses like that. There was always a lot of stallions around, and everyone had a horse, didn't they?
Yeah, I remember Dean James's yearlings just at just this side of Cadena. His horses always looked magnificent. They always looked
Toffee Gent.
Really good. Yeah, exactly. So you're bringing back memories to me now. I sort of haven't had a lot to do with the harness racing lately, but yeah, they're great names, and look, they were wonderful people, and taught me a lot. And we used to get a lot of Victorian support in those days. They'd come and buy yearlings, and Perth would come
West
here
Australia
in droves.
with Peter Paulette that was there.
Peter Paulette came into the game, and he'd bring a team of West Australian buyers over, and it was always a very popular sale.
So with your grandfather, was it Varley Hancock?
Varley was my grandfather.
He had a lovely horse, didn't he?
Probably he got the horse that got me really going, like anyone. He bred a horse called Fieryland.
Via Radiant Robert?
He was by Radiant Robert out of a mare called Karina, who turned out to be a lovely mare. And Fieryland was an unbeaten 2-year-old and 3-year-old in South Australia. I remember Grandpa always used to say the only time young Pedro ever beat Fieryland was in the final Limited Dominion in Melbourne. But Fieryland won every 2 and 3-year-old race. Then he never raced for many years. There was an ownership dispute apparently, and then Red Shin brought him back as a 5, 6, 7-year-old stallion, and gee, he won a lot of races.
He's a lovely looking animal, wasn't he? He was a beautiful looking horse.
Finished up winning around 30 races, but he was a high
So he was a
quality
stallion,
horse.
wasn't he? He stood at stud.
Finished up going to stud. The mare also left Fiorina, who won at Oaks, and then Fabiana was another daughter, and she produced Barnaby Rudge, who was a good horse. So, and Malura came out of Fabiana. He won a Derby. Her grandpa bred a Derby winner in Fieryland. Dad, at that stage, bred Malura. He won a Derby, and unfortunately, Pappy came along later in life, Pappy McCoy. And
On the turn, transit lane, joined by Son of a Guest, but here's Pappy. Pappy McCoy coming with a big run. He storms to the lead, Pappy McCoy. Diamond Debutante flying home. Pappy McCoy in front, holding the mare, Diamond Debutante, and Pappy McCoy wins the Foster's Classic by a metre.
Just tell everyone about the Pappy. So you had owned Megan Brook, wasn't it?
Yeah, I bought Megan Brook off Ted Lang.
Lang and Sons at
as a unraced mare, and bred at a Kawartha Robust, and Pappy was the result. And yeah,
and he won just about for obviously for Ross Sugars was an outstanding juvenile. So she was by Paleface, wasn't she? One of the few that were by Paleface.
Yeah, she was a Paleface Adios mare out of a mare called Intriguing, and I remember I was in New Zealand when the Langs bought Intriguing. She was by Lumber Dream. And I remember Bob Norman and Floyd Brooks and Ted Lang were a great team, and they would buy mares out of New Zealand every year. And they were chasing Lumber Dream mares, particularly Bob Norman. And and how right he was, turned out to be a great broodmare sire. And
was she out of Fairhall? Or am I thinking of the other
Intriguing
one?
was a different family altogether.
So Intriguing there was Intricate.
That was later afterwards, yeah. Intricate bobbed up. Secret Poplar was a good horse for Jim Post.
Jimmy Post had.
Yeah, he was a very good horse. He was a young horse when I bought Megan Brook, I think. Intriguing was a good horse for Graham Keatley. Intricate was a very good mare for Ross and Lenny Sugars.
So with those there, you had Megan Brook and you put it to Kawartha Robust, who was standing at
Merv
Mumfords at Auburn at the time.
Merv and Andy Cozzano imported him.
Yeah. So when you sold him as a yearling, what sort of money did you get?
He made look, memory fades me. He made about 24,000. I should remember to the cent. I was the auctioneer. I couldn't believe it. I'm standing there selling this colt. I had no expectation that he'd make that much money. Bricky Bob Moran bought him.
So that was 30 odd years ago.
Life-changing.
30 odd years, so that's 100 plus in this any day.
Yeah. I remember saying at the time, I think this is all my Christmases have come at once here. You know, I'm knocking down my own horse for 24,000, I think, which was a lot of money. And you know, they bought a cheap horse. He was a wonderful horse. And then 3 years later, the mare had a bit of bad luck in between, and then I had a colt when Pappy was at his prime. He would have been 4 years old. And I sold a What's Next colt in the same ring for 34,000. He turned out to be Spuds McKenzie, and he was a pretty good horse.
Did Ross have him as well?
He paid his way. He won. He won well over $100,000 back then, and so very fortunate. But yeah, the family's always had good success. And
so Robert's still. Well, I think he's just winding down now. But Robert always had horses, and most of them were with Ray Holborn in the latter years, weren't they?
Yeah, Robert was good with stuck with the Sugarses for a long time, and then Ross moved into State, of course, which stopped that partnership. But they had some great horses through them, and Dad used to breed probably 7 or 8 mares a year, mares like Wylinger and Modern Maid and those sort of horses. Tight Security we bred and sold, or I say we, the family did.
They had horses with. I know Peter Thompson used to always had a few for Robert as well, break him, knock him into shape and whatever. So
well, Pirrie was, I guess, the local track in a way.
Yeah, exactly.
And would always love to go to Pirrie on a Friday or Saturday night for the harness racing.
The good old days.
Yeah, so it was a good period. But look, it was good days. You look back on it and you wish you'd done more at school, but
we all wish, don't we?
Sort of floated through that. And but harness racing was always, listen to the radio or try and get to Wavell and get to Globe Derby in those days.
So you would have seen some of the best trainers and the best drivers and the best horses in that era of, I suppose, the 80s, I suppose.
Oh, early in that 70s. I
70s
remember the Websters, of course, all the Websters, Lenny Sugars, Stan Messenger, Wally Bowyer. I had a bit to do with Wally Bowyer when I was a kid because Dad would take the mares to Radette Robert, and he was in the backyard of his place in Woodville, I reckon,
Yeah,
somewhere
it
around
was.
there. There's actually a photo of me as a little 6, 7-year-old sitting on the back of Radiant Robert, which we've got somewhere at home. He lived till a very old age, Radiant Robert, and was serving mares well into his 20s. But he left some superstars. Claridge, I remember, he was a great horse, went to America.
They're all tough, weren't they?
Oh, wonder, Radiant Venture. The list goes on. So he was a great stallion.
So you progressed or went over to the Gallops and have forged a name as a consultant, and obviously you buy and sell a lot of horses to overseas and whatever.
Pedigrees were probably the reason. I used to just love the genetic side of things. So it didn't take me long to pick up all the thoroughbred breeding, and we used to work in the pedigree room, and after the trotting sort of got quieter, and then
when did you leave? When did Dalgety Bloodstock was Coles, and then when you sort of came and worked for the Magic Millions and run the show there?
Early 80s, they all changed
so
over.
you retired now, semi-retired?
Yeah.
You just do the horses?
Yeah,
do a bit of
I
consulting?
concentrate on a few clients I've got, and but things changed in the early 80s, and I could probably see more future in thoroughbreds, and I enjoyed the participation of it, and the upside of it was much greater than what there was in harness racing.
Yeah, I think everybody, unfortunately we've been through the golden era, and doesn't matter whether it be here or Melbourne or anywhere, even in America and Canada, it's never going to be like it was, and people have got to accept that it's no longer front of house. And 20 years ago you couldn't bet on the basketball whether who's going to get the first gold. Now you can. So it's certainly changed it.
I think harness racing, I mean, I go back, you always think that you think Rosie a picture when you're younger, but Wavell was such a great attraction for people. It was so exciting, and I remember we'd always stand down by where Eldon Crouch would be in the broadcaster's box down below, or the course announcer's box, and the horses were literally, you could reach out and touch them, and your heroes of Dick Webster's and Kevin Brooks and Stan Messengers were right there, and they'd say "G'day, son" as they'd walk past, and Bill Shins and those sort of people, and the horses and the spectacular noises and crash bangs. And
you felt part of the scene, and we found that when we did the Back to Wavell the first time, that Lance Justice and Kate Gath especially was amazed at the noise and how she couldn't believe it, and that's what's missing now. But it'll never come back.
No, I understand that. I understand why it's gone like it has, but. And then that reminiscing night we had 3 or 4 years ago when they do 5 or 6 laps, and the race was never over, and the horses at the back would somehow win. And one of the amazing things was how Cardigan Bay ever won an Dominion from 36 yards behind on Wavell. You go and look at Wavell now, and you wonder how
he got around.
How he got past
the others.
But he won an Dominion from 36 metres behind. And you just shake your head. And extraordinary efforts. And horses like that, I remember a horse called Twinkle Hanover started the outside barrier and heated into Dominion. I was fortunate enough to be there that night, and he led by 2 lengths by the time they hit the winning post. And you think, crikey, it's just the standing starts and how he just lowered his back and just bing. That was just a memory in me. Grammel giving him 72 metres, 108 metres sometimes. To see those sort of races, that's what captured the imagination of the public. And but I don't understand those days will never come back.
No. So just in winding up, best horse you've ever seen in the flesh?
Oh, Mary's Idol.
Mary's Idol, he's amazing.
We used to go to Kilmore Cup in those days, and I was there the day racing the Kilmore Cup, and he just looked like an Adonis. He wasn't just a champion, he looked like one, and he held himself like one.
He knew that, didn't he? Yeah.
He knew he was.
I won't ask you about your best trainers and drivers because there's too many, but
South Australia had the best of them.
And they've proved that on the stage, and it doesn't matter even into the Gallops with people like Jamie Carr and that. What they've done is, it goes to show we have a great breeding ground here.
Great foundation.
And people always say about footballers or cricketers or anything, they go to the best or wherever. The horses, they go to the biggest places because that's where that's what they got to. They aspire to be.
Yes.
But we've certainly done a great job with. Just even some of those names you meant before, the Sugars and the Justices and the Websters.
Albie Holberton, got to mention Albie. And the list could go on, and I've forgotten many good names. Rex Robinson was a very good man in his day. Bobby Sweet, they just went on and on.
Bob passed away recently, didn't he?
So names like that ring true now, and the more I'm talking about it, the more the memories are coming back.
All right, well, look, thanks for your time. I'm sure that the viewers will be rapt to see and listen to what you've been talking about, and all the best for the future.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you.